So for next session, I would like to invite Mr. Vikas Anand, who is the Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Botminds AI. Giving a brief, he has over 22 years plus of experience and has worked in companies like HCL, Infosys, and Blue Prism. He has spent 18 years in outsourcing, consulting, and sales with global clients. With last 5 years, Vikas has been with the RPA and AI intelligent automation industry, helping organizations in their digital transformation journey in identifying the right tool set up to solve their business challenges. With that note, Vikas sir, over to you to take this forward. You are on mute, sir.
Thank you, Jit. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes, loud and clear.
And you can see my screen as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all the speakers so far. I heard Swapnil, Subhash, and Ujjani as well, different point of views. Swapnil essentially gave the overall picture of where the industry is heading overall from an AI perspective and where multiple pieces fit in. Subhash view is in terms of the RPA and the changing landscape of RPA. And I think Ujjani's point and the point of view of actual practitioner to be able to see what it actually takes to use an RPA. We've heard about what it does, but what it actually takes to use the RPA. So my attempt here in the next 20-25 minutes really is to give you a view from an AI first platform perspective, right? And we'll go multiple ways. So we got initial piece in terms of where the industry is, then certain use cases, and I have got a couple of small demos to show you as well. All of that I'll attempt to cover within 20-25 minutes here. All right. So getting started, the first and important thing here is we at Botminds believe that speed with intelligence is critical to automation. What we mean by that is speed is already there with RPA. I heard some of the speakers mention about RPA is fairly new. Well, RPA has been there for roughly 15-20 years. We had scripts earlier, then we have sophisticated systems now to take care of that. RPA has also changed very significantly in the last 2.5 years. We have Subhash mentioning about IPA, hyperautomation, CPA, and I think every 3 months there's a new term that comes to represent RPA because the whole landscape is changing that fast. So we at Botminds believe that speed is definitely coming from bots. But intelligence, which is currently only residing with human beings. So we have humans which sanitize the data, which clean up the data so that automation can begin. The combination of these two is what is very, very critical to an automation. And all of that becomes very evident when you're actually looking at document processes and document process workflows, right? So I'll walk you through that piece there. But let's take a step back. Let's look at the overall landscape of natural language processing and deep learning. I know it's a very, very overwhelming. I'm not gonna read through this, but if I was to simplify this entire thing, the interrelationship between different technologies which are there, which are basically doing the text mining or text extraction, you're basically looking at the fact that you've got document classification, which says this document is a contract, this is a mortgage document, this is an agreement, this is an annual report, etc., etc. Then you have information extraction, web mining, where the information gets picked up from the web, and so on and so forth. Still very much detailed in terms of NLP and deep learning. But let's take a step back and look at the macro. So when I look at the macro, we're looking at AI as a very, very big field, as we all know. And there was a question just a minute back in terms of what's the difference between RPA, AI, and machine learning. And I hope to be able to give a bit more answer, here. So we've got AI, that's great. Within AI is the field, which is machine learning. That's part of artificial intelligence. Within that, there's another field called deep learning. Then we have NLP, which is basically crossing through multiple different fields of AI and overlapping with machine learning and deep learning. And then we have computer vision, which is just sitting, on the cross section of deep learning, natural language processing, and so on and so forth. So this is roughly the integration of all the various names and terms that we essentially hear. RPA so far essentially has been sitting really outside of the AI boundary, right? So RPA basically was, you got a structured data, you got certain rules, and then those rules are followed to be able to close and carry on that task. Last 2.5, 3 years, when RPA got married with AI, and I'll explain the reason why actually that happened. That IPA piece essentially sits within the AI, but it's very, very rough in the way saying that, it could actually use any specific thing. It could basically use any practice within AI, and I've just highlighted a few of them over here. What we are focused here, at Botminds, and I'll just mention that that's an intersection of the NLP and deep learning. But let's take a look at NLP first. So within natural language processing, we got multiple types of things that can be done with the text. So you got sentiment analysis, you got text-to-text transformation, generation of summary, personalization of result. We've seen chatbots. You've heard about GPT-2, GPT-3, essentially, changing the game completely. So this is the place which I've highlighted here is where we at Botminds essentially sit. So we are at a very cusp of natural language processing and deep learning. We are following the research. We are at the very forefront of adapting all the changes, all the new things that are happening within the technology sphere and bringing that as part of our platform. And all the things that I've discussed here, on top about NLP in some shape or form that is there currently existing as part of our Botminds platform. Okay. Moving forward, so traditionally the RPA tools were RPA, like I mentioned, but they have AI wrapped around it. And that's where that becomes an IPA or a CPA or a hyperautomation. Botminds is an AI first platform. At its core, we started as a document understanding platform. That's all that we wanted to do, to look at the documents, understand documents. But very quickly, we realized that that's just not enough. We basically need to have an end-to-end solution, and that's what we've done. We've got an RPA layer around our AI solution. So that's the document understanding, which is IDP, and IPA. So that's a combination is what we are offering as part of our platform. Now, why should anyone bother about AI first and IPA? Very simple piece here is that 80% of data is still essentially unstructured, and that's something that Gartner has estimated. And this is the result in 2021. And traditionally, what RPA is capable of doing is look at structured data. Structured data, essentially, you already know what the value is, what needs to be done, and it's very, very neatly organized, tabular format, fields, tables, etc., etc. But the moment you throw in an unstructured document, which could be, an email, which could be email content, which could be a contract, even if it is one page, if it's multiple types of invoices, whatever as the case may be. That's the challenge for RPA. Subhash mentioned that around 85% of the organizations already have, RPA, and that is the challenge. That's a great thing, but that's also a challenge that everything that could have been automated through a structured data input kind of already got done. And all those organizations which were at the very forefront of adopting RPA 10, 15 years ago are done with all that needs to be done on a standard structured way. And everybody was looking at what else can we do with RPA, and that's where the intersection of RPA and AI came into play, and that is your IPA there. So with this scenario where we have 80% unstructured data, this could be in multiple formats. You got, like I mentioned, mortgage documents, you got contractual documents, you got call transcripts, you got annual reports, you got balance sheets. All of this is unstructured data, and these are the challenges that all the organizations are currently trying to solve, starting from Google, Amazon, all the way to the startups as well. So going and taking this to the operation, I mean, we've spoken about all this various technology, and that's all great. But if a technology cannot be used by the operation, by the SMEs, then that's going to be not so great, right? I mean, because it can't really be used. You need people who understand the technology, or possibly sit down and have to learn coding and so on and so forth. So we take it to the business. The challenges around documenting or document intensive processes. And that really is that you've got documents, and these are the various challenges which are there, which I've tried to summarize in 5 steps or 5 different parts. First challenge is document sources. Documents come from a variety of sources. You need to gather the documents first. Once you've gathered the documents, you need to kind of clean the document, make sure that the information or the noise is taken off and the information kind of is picked up. Traditionally, till today, done primarily by a subject matter expert. Somebody who understands the logic. If it's insurance, I understand insurance document. I'll pick up those pieces and I'll provide it down to the RPA. Now, the IPA piece could essentially do that as well, but then there are 3 or 4 different technologies which go in play to be able to construct that solution. And the moment you take that path of constructing a solution through 3 or 4 different technologies, things can break very easily. And usually this construction is only valid for very specific scenarios. So you work for a particular invoice type, it only works for that type of invoice. Another invoice comes through, you kind of have to start all over again to be able to build that piece. Second challenge is people and knowledge. All the knowledge resides with people. People are the SMEs. People move, and with them, knowledge goes away. And that's the challenge. Then you have workflows and systems. With the clients, you've got multiple applications, you've got multiple underlying systems. And RPA, IPA, any technology essentially has to talk to all those applications, has to talk to all those underlying systems as well. Quality and timeline, key aspect here. Even with a human being working on it, non-standard clauses, non-standard processes, non-standard information is usually not captured. You have to continuously update and train your SMEs to make sure that they are aware. And that's where you have the occupancy rate and the efficiency rate and the fatigue and et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of timeline, just training people usually takes a very long time. Then training people and then configuring technology for every single client usually is a non-starter. So RPA, or I'm not just specifically saying RPA, but let's say technology, essentially takes a backseat in terms of, okay, let's get the process started. We'll bring in technology, later. And then comes seasonality and dependency. Seasonality is your retail. You're looking at a lot of peak coming in through your holiday season. Your utility company, you're getting a lot of peak, coming through a specific, time of the month. And to handle a seasonality, usually we hire, more people. But what do we do with the people at the end of it? And that becomes challenging. And dependency on IT to a large extent, also, if you go ahead and pick up a complicated technology, which is brittle and a couple of systems are put in place, a business either needs to become an IT house, or a business kind of needs to rely heavily on IT. And quite honestly, a business speed and an IT speed are two different things completely, right? So business runs very, very fast. So what are we at Botminds doing about it? So the way we've looked at the entire piece is we are looking at it from a very simple perspective. We understand all types of documents. Whatever type of document you have, any data source, we understand that. Whether it's a PDF, it's a native, non-native PDF. Whether the information is on the web, information has to be picked up from the web. Whatever else the case maybe, we understand that. We are also not bound by templates. So if something changes in the middle, no problem at all. We'll go ahead and our AI models will pick that up. The second is that training has to be simple. So there is a lot of debate about no code, zero code, and a lot of organizations slide under the zero code and say, hey, it's very, for these scenarios, it's zero code. But if you really want to do something meaningful, you have to have a code there, right? And that's true. That's how most of the platforms are there. But for us, it's literally point and click. There's literally no place to write a code. We have base models, and I'll demonstrate that to you. We have base models, and from the base models is where you go ahead and train based on your types of documents and the kind of output that you're looking at. And the third piece here, anytime anybody mentions an AI-based solution, I think the first thing, the reaction that everybody has, who knows anything about AI, I need a lot of data. I need a lot of data, and that lot of data could be 100,000 or a million data points. Then I need a lot of time because I need to test, train, evaluate, and recalibrate. And then the output essentially would come in a couple of quarters, a couple of years scenario. These things have kind of been shrunk down a lot, but it still is a very, very large timeline. What we have done at Botminds is that you can provide only 100 examples on the training data. And with those 100 examples, you can create your own custom AI model, within weeks, essentially. So it's a very short timeline to train, very short timeline to get results, and the data is also very, very limited. All right. So with that, our approach here essentially is that we have, just to summarize, we got an AI-first automation. It's a no-code platform. We have ready-made modular blocks, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And it's an end-to-end platform. And what you get as a result of that is you get, the results and the efficiency and the ROI within weeks, not in months or in years, which is typically the scenario the moment you look at digital transformation. So I'm going to change gears and talk specifically about our platform now. So there are these 4 things which are important, or 4 steps which are important when it comes down to our platform. The first is You're looking at ingesting the document. So you have to basically provide the document. Once you put the document, our platform does the understanding, parsing of the document through our AI models. And then you train on the basis of those models. You train and basically say, okay, my document is unique. Here is where the information literally lies. And all this training is done through point and click. And you specify that the training gets done. And once the training is done, you're looking at extraction of the data and the output in the format, in the way that you're looking at. If I just look under the hood here and look at specifically what all things are going on inside, here are the multiple modular components that I was talking about. I've kind of highlighted that, as an IDP, which is the pieces which are working specifically for document processing, and IPA, the pieces which are specifically working on putting all these things together here. So you got ingestion, where we have, intelligent web crawler. We can find information from, a news article. We can get the information from, SEC's website, or download a document from, any of the containers, et cetera, et cetera. I'll not go through all of them in detail, but all of these pieces have multiple layers on it. We have semantic AI built in, text understanding, table understanding, cognitive search. All of these pieces are cohesively working across through multiple layers to be able to generate, the output that you desire from the unstructured input data, that you currently have. All right. So let's see a couple of things, in action. So here you see an extraction that is happening from a table. Now here you have got a table on the left-hand side. This is our snapshot of our platform. You got a balance, you got an annual report on the left-hand side, and the results that you see are on the right-hand side, generated on the real time. And it's not just extraction and you just have to, work with it. You basically have a deep linking, which essentially talks about where the information was extracted from. This, is a 100-page document, and we kind of picked up a snippet, from there. And this is, I want to highlight here, this is something that requires a human grade understanding, and that is where SMEs, come into play to be able to extract this value. Usually takes a couple of hours, couple of days. We have clients where mortgage processing essentially generate one output. We were able to reduce that down to 3 to 4 hours, including human in the loop. So that's tremendous amount of saving there. Let's change gears and look at a different type of document here. Now this is a very large 200-page document, which essentially is an annual report. And this annual report is not, information is not sitting literally in a tabular format, which to us humans is structured data. To a machine, it is unstructured data. Now here, these pieces of information is literally sitting inside somewhere in the text in some shape or form. You can see that it's there in this highlight page in a different way, written as a notes, etc., etc. So it doesn't matter where the information is. We are able to extract all of that information, coming out and bring that out in the same summary format. I'll give you one more example here, and let's look at the scenario where we're talking about invoices. And I see a lot of media companies, are here today on this webinar. And this is an example of an invoice. This is an invoice from one of the media, companies as well that we're working with. And this is a television spot advertisement. And the key thing, apart from being able to extract the information from the invoices, the key piece is it's not just extraction, it's basically normalization as well. And you would see that there is days, the day is written as FR as a Friday, and in the invoice, it's written in multiple ways. You have FR, you've got a tick mark, you've got a dash, you've got a 1. But the end result that, the output is looking for is, hey, which day was it published? And the answer is Friday. So the normalization essentially gets taken care of, there we present the normalization as well of the data. Now, with that, with these examples, I'll take you to a holistic demo here, which essentially is looking at a financial data extraction from multiple documents, 300+ page documents. These are call transcripts, annual reports, 10K, 10Q filings, company presentations, etc. And what it actually needs is, it needs all these things in text extraction, table extraction, normalization of information, human in the loop, semantic understanding, validation of information. You'll see that we are able to extract the information and also specify and say, hey, this is okay. this is within the parameter, this is outside the parameter, and you'll see deep linking. It's a pre-recorded demo. I'm going to cut my video off, and I'm going to let the audio run, at the back. Let's go and do that. This is an example of financial data extraction from multiple sources. So we've got 4 examples here of different organizations. And just as you can see that we got investor presentation, 10Q filing, earning call transcript, and a press release. So let's go to the main file. So on the 10K file that gets loaded, you would see on our platform, the file gets loaded on the left-hand side. It becomes a smart document. On the right-hand side is the real-time extraction that happens. You would see that all the other files that we have seen are loaded here. And this particular file is about 350-page document. And what we've done is we have extracted this information real-time as the file was being, pulled up. So you have company name, and the moment I click on any value that has been extracted, the deep linking essentially takes me to that place where the value was extracted from. So here we got company name, we got number of employees. Now, number of employees, as you can see, is coming in from a different document called investor presentation. We got outstanding common shares. Now, this is coming back from 10K, and I'll be taking back to a 10K document here. But it doesn't really matter. Once we do a document set, it doesn't really matter where the information is. All of that summary essentially gets pulled out on one side, in one place here. So that's your number of shares. If we go further down and we look at the countries operating and the partnership, now this partnership information is coming from a call transcript. As you would notice that this doesn't really have any title or any heading that simply says that this is a partnership. This is the semantic understanding of Botminds AI Platform, which essentially highlights and say these are the areas where the partnership was discussed. And it's not just picking up one word or 2 words around that. It's basically picking up the context around that as well. Then we look at revenue details, and you've seen information being picked up from a 10K, from investor relations, as well as from a transcript. Now we're looking at information being picked up from a particular, investor presentation, which happens to be a table here. So this is 20.4. Now, making corrections also is fairly easy. Now this is billions. I would rather have a 20.4 billion, and I go ahead and correct that. That goes back as the learning. And it's not just 20.4 billion. It is also the normalization that is done here by our platform. And let it continue on this part here. Going forward, you're looking at the fact that other pieces of information has been extracted as well. And when we look at, let's say, management company, the information is coming in from a 10K, auditor's opinion is coming from a 10K. Let's take a look at divestments. Now in here, this also is coming in from our call transcript analysis. And it's not, again, it's not something that has been mentioned as that this is revenue and you pick up the information around it, or shares and pick up the information around that. It's basically a semantic understanding of the overall document. And there are 2 candidates here which have been picked up. Now, apart from just picking up and normalizing the data, what we also do is we use the capability of NLP, which is text generation. And what we've done is we've created multiple summaries, company summary, auditor report, cash equivalent summary. These pieces of information does not really, this summary sentence does not exist in any documents, but the key values have been extracted, from the summary above, and these have been created using natural language. So this is all, built up by our model here. And in addition to that, there's an ability in which you can specify and go ahead and do a rule-based, highlight as well. So you've got greens representing that all the information here is marked up correctly as per the information that analysts might have provided or the company might have given in terms of guidance. Working capital is kind of on the periphery, and inventory is on the red. So that all pieces essentially get done here. In addition to this, you have the ability to download the information and take it out from here. Let's take an example of PDF. I download the PDF file, and within the PDF, all the information on the summary is extracted here. And with this, all the information, if you would remember, I corrected the 20.4 billions to a 20.4 billion. So that information has been corrected. And with every piece of information, we have a deep linking, which is embedded. So I could, at this point, click on this link. I would be taken to the IBM respective document, respective page, respective table, and the value where it was extracted from, which is 20.4 billion. Through the deep linking. So I've got that, and it tells me this is where the information. So information essentially is never really lost. And you also have a way of putting that out into a tabular format as well, which looks something like this. So either of the formats work through, or we also have a downstream API. Okay. So with that, I'll move on. And so what you've seen really here is the demonstration in terms of all different types of capabilities, variety of documents, variety of types of incoming data, variety of types of output that can be extracted and presented out. Now, from here, what are the deployment models? We are a SaaS-based company. It's a SaaS-based platform. All of these are deployed in the cloud. And the key differentiating factor here is that our AI is literally deployed in your cloud. So if you've got a private cloud where we set up Botminds platform for you, the AI, all the intelligence essentially sits in that private cloud, which means that nothing really comes to Botminds for processing, for understanding. There isn't any AI mothership sitting with us where we do the processing. The document stays with you, the data stays with you. So compliance, privacy, data privacy, etc., is all taken care of that way. Moving on to the next part, looking at a couple of other things. So we're looking at the enterprise readiness of our platform, and we have all the important key component and pieces of what it makes an enterprise-ready platform. All there. We got data privacy, we got workflows, we got integrations, the SLAs, and the audit logs. All of the pieces, are there. So with all these things here, what is it? How do you actually start, and what how soon can you actually get the results? So there are these three steps, very simple steps. You got a base model which is ready, which already understands tables, which already understands semantic, already understands variety of different document formats. What you need to do is you need to import your data or specify where to pick up the data from, provide examples, and all of this is done through point and click. It usually takes about a week to get this done. And at the end of the day, at the end of that training, you essentially have your custom AI model ready, and you can either link it directly to your existing RPA system, or if you don't have an RPA system, we go ahead and deploy that and put it wherever the integration is required. So we can have an upstream API, downstream API, and so on and so forth. So with that, just to summarize, what you're looking at with a platform which is unified platform is a rapid ROI to be able to generate the output, generate the 10x efficiency, get the 10x capacity, have a 90% operational efficiency, and move away from looking at accuracy specifically, because a myth specifically is there, with all the people that I've spoken with so far, is that, hey, because it's AI, I expect 100% accuracy at the end. That's not going to happen. What AI is going to do is essentially take away the challenges in terms of extraction and give you the best possible output. It completely depends upon how you're trained. Yeah, you can reach 100%, but that cannot be the expectation that is the starting point. I don't think that is the right expectation, to begin with. And with that, that's the end of my, presentation here. Pretty happy to take any questions that may be there at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, thank you for the wonderful presentation. There are a few questions. Would be really great if you could address the same in chat box itself. As we are running out of time, we'll move ahead with the next presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Happy to do that. Thank you.
I would like to invite all the panel speakers, Mr. Gokul, who is the co-founder and CEO for Botminds, then Mr. Balaji Rajagopalan, country head, technology head for ICICI Bank, Mr. Manoj Jagnani, head of RPA tools and platforms for Sony India Software Center, Mr. Karthik Jagdish, global head of robotics and intelligent automation for DIGO, Ravi Bansal, Global Head Automation Center for Credit Suisse. Dr. R. Gopalakrishnan, Head of Data Analytics, Coordinator, Center for Artificial Intelligence at Center of Railway Information Systems. And Mr. Dr. Sanjeev Chobe, EVP and Head of Big Data and Advanced Analytics at Vodafone Idea Limited. And the panel will be moderated by Mr. Subhash Chandra, Country Head Client Engagement at Blue Prism. With that note, Subhash sir, over to you to take this forward. And requesting all the panel speakers to please switch on their cameras. Thank you.
Thanks, Ajit. Excellent. I think a lot of pressure on me. They're all the stalwarts of the industry here in the panel, elite list of panelists. I'm sure the insights which we're going to get from them is going to be very, very useful and crucial for all of us who are in this industry, more so who are actually in the path of already deploying intelligent automation combined with state-of-the-art artificial intelligence tools. The concept of intelligent automation, or we spoke about intelligence process automation, IRPA itself is kind of I would say hyped, or probably is a reality. I would like to dig your brains out on understanding. Basically, there are so many RPA vendors today in the industry who are kind of claiming to be having built-in AI capabilities on the platform itself. And what do you think it makes sense for you, and why, if you go ahead, or one, you go ahead with the built-in tools, or it makes sense for you to kind of go ahead with a tool which offers a flexible a platform for you to integrate with your own in-house grown AI tools, or any ML or NLP tools, or state of the art or the best of the breed solution. So I just want to kind of understand your views. Of course, since Dr. Sanjeev started, he was the last in the speaker list. I would like to start with him. Dr. Sanjeev, please. We can't hear you, Dr. Sanjeev. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Thanks, Subhash. The only thing that I would, so my 2 bits will be, especially when we are developing our own tools, and so proprietary technology, when we are developing it, it becomes really costly, and sometimes scaling that particular technology may not be feasible or appropriate, right? So there are a lot of open source technologies. So generally, I would look at the open source technologies, but then open source technologies, they come with certain restrictions, and certainly then efficiency is a question on top of it. So especially when we are talking about different storage systems, or if we are talking about open source algorithms, AI/ML algorithms, if we are using them, certainly they give us kind of academic kind of a research-oriented outputs, right? And similarly, when the same algorithms are then converted to some kind of Bing applications, or by Azure or Microsoft, or they are converted as a recognition APIs by AWS, or things like that, that becomes more productive and more useful for the consumer to actually grasp, and then provide it to public for consumption. So that's my 2 bits.
Thanks, Dr. Sanjeev. I'm sure you are in the industry where a lot of pressure on you. People today like phones more than their spouses. So I'm sure with 5G coming in, that's going to become even worse. So and all the best with all this hype, and thanks a lot for your insight. So over to you, Ravi. Your thoughts on the same topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think artificial intelligence is very subjective, right? I mean, so depending upon how you read it is what you make out of it, right? So I think there has to be that context as to what we are trying to achieve. Yeah. So you can have, so there was something called concept of OCR, then became ICR, so intelligent character recognition. That doesn't mean that it has intelligence to really predict, right? So what we're trying to say is that there is subjectivity in that intelligence, yeah, and what is an RP enabled artificial intelligence capability can achieve. So I think that context has to be brought in very clearly, that it is not in the extreme sense of artificial intelligence is what we're trying to say. I mean, there is introduction of cognitive agent that to the concept of RPA, which can, give you a sense of training a model. So picking up information. Say, for instance, if you're scanning, I'll just build this view, right? So OCR and RPA bringing in more intelligence and the way you can. So you've got a passport, you scan it, you put it through the RPA model, and now you can train as to what field is what, and you can name it, right? And you get the entire piece or the solution, 100 sort of examples, and it really trains well, right? So that means, does that mean that it is able to really build artificial intelligence? Well, in the extreme sense of artificial intelligence, no, right? So I think those capabilities are there, and it is going to follow that pattern, right? It is going to start small. It is going to have those baby steps where, as we add more complexity, as we add more sort of features, are we able to really get that generic sort of intelligence to a lot more cognitive intelligence? And I'm choosing my words very carefully here, because that's where I think, because we use it very interchangeably, and hence the view is that, hey, is RPA really going to achieve, or have inbuilt AI capabilities? And then I think the problem statement, the spectrum of problem statements that is really typically solved by artificial intelligence is very diverse. I mean, I'm not even talking about cross industry. I think within a sector, you can have a plethora of use cases or problem statements that can be solved, right? So it's very bespoke, yeah, to an organization, to an industry. So for me, and getting on board has its own flavor from a security, from a data point of view, from a governance point of view. So for me, I think the cognitive agent aspect of RPA is a good news for sure. I mean, I wouldn't deny that, but it is far from what AI in its truest sense means. So I still would think that a bespoke view from a POC point of view is still very critical and very important for organizations to get a flavor as to what it can achieve and then scale up. Hope that's helpful, Subhash.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. Balaji, what your view? Banking is something which requires a lot of intelligence, capabilities, because most of the tasks are done manually, and I'm sure there's huge pressure on you all to kind of bringing in some of these artificial intelligence capabilities. So, what do you think? What is the best way?
Yeah, thanks. So AI is an evolving technology. You cannot rely on a specific solution. It's important to build a point solution to a platform capability. And when you keep building the processes integration, it's important to have a low code automation instead of a point solution. Moving from point solution to a platform capability is going to be extremely important, so that you don't start building things from scratch for every use case. You build a capability, you build a feature. It's all about reuse for that same capability across applications, whether it's a customer journey or it is for the back office operations. So it's important to have an interoperable solution, and you cannot have your in-house, because even the biggies or any startups is good for experimenting, doing POCs, getting the understanding. Like people use this AI cognitive capabilities very easily, but for people, employees to really understand what it is, it's important to do some POCs with startups, get the experience, learn things, and convert it into a platform capability, whichever is giving you results. You extend that capability with the API-based service rather than building individual deployments for every capability. So from a banking perspective, document intelligence is extremely important, whether it is for the customer journey or for the back office operations. It is not just mere extracting of information. It's all about intelligence on after the extract information, doing the scrutiny of the document. Can I do certain things upfront as part of a customer journey rather than a transaction of a trade, for example? It goes back and forth in the name of document scrutiny issues. To avoid that, can I bring certain scrutiny as and when the customer is uploading the information? Email classification. You get enough of emails. It can be a customer complaint, it can be a query, it can be anything related to customer service. How will I get that information? Every large organization gets large amount of emails. So email bot is one kind of capability where understand the intent, responding back, or even classifying that information into multiple groups. Facial recognition, voice capability, understanding the intent, customer satisfaction, customer sentiment. So there are multiple components. If you look at it's evolving, there are multiple components to it. In short, move towards a platform capability, do some experiments, do a POC, get the comfort, identify the right use cases, which will give you the result.
Excellent. Thanks, Balaji. Karthik, I understand that
Yeah.
I don't want to represent you from Diageo perspective, but you as an individual, you also have a very vast experience deploying automation, especially and bringing intelligence on top of it for a while now. Very matured practice in your organization. So, what's your thought around it? What's the best suitable solution around?
Yeah, I think probably I would just like to echo what Balaji did mention, right? Today, people do talk about when you look at an organization, there's a front office, middle office, and the back office. And AI is all about data, right? It's nothing, which is nothing which is going to come out of the box and then give you the output any given point in time. So most of the times when we talk about AI, it needs to be a narrow AI discussions because we are not talking about general purpose AI like, Googles of the world or Microsoft Bings of the world at this point in time. We are not here to solve world problems. As an organization, we have our own, internal point specific problems and a point specific solutions. And for that moment of time, you know so the journey of integrating robotics and the point based and again, I don't want to call it as an AI, but intelligent solutions is something which is in the trajectory path. um, is it matured as on today? May not be, is my 2 cents what I would like to concur.
Excellent. Thanks, Karthik. Dr. Gopal Krishnan, I'm sure you are probably in a very advanced stage based on your discussion in the morning when you shared your views and what you guys are doing. Very interesting, considering that from a public sector view. But with your maturity, what is the best? I mean, you said you're working with IITs, you're working with a lot of incubators and stuff like that. What do you think you should go ahead with a ready-made solution, or you should have a flexibility of integrating with whatever you want? Doctor, you're on mute.
So when I look at railways per se, there are probably 25 countries or 30 countries all over the world which have railways and very national specific railways. So I don't expect multiple companies to come with railway specific solutions because it's going to be a sole buyer. So they will not be able to, a vendor will not be able to sell that product at somewhere else, probably other railways. But again, there could be a lot of country specific challenges or operational practices and demands and market situations. What I can clearly perceive in the railways also, there are some parts which are common across industries like inventory management or finance or HR. Those are solutions which probably would be more off the shelf. Whereas a lot of challenges like real-time traffic control, it's going to be very highly sophisticated modeling where probably not just one, probably 10, 15 PhDs are working. Because these are like the Google Maps, the algorithms that Google Maps uses, probably we need to develop something similar to that for railways to be able to predict on a traffic on a rail network rather than on a road network.
Yep.
So I see like multiple ways of going through. It's not like industry can provide all solutions. But again, as I said earlier in my thought process, the kind of use cases are so diverse coming from like predictive to prescriptive to even dynamic programming or reinforcement learning as it is called in machine learning literature. Those all of them, not one single vendor or some single platform is able to provide the best of all solutions. Probably for OR you might require Cplex or Gurobi, or some other solution for NLP, or something might use NIME or some other kind of solution. So I don't see one vendor coming in, even with SAS or MATLAB kind of capabilities, coming in with a solution for every problem. It's going to be a mix and match, phasing, prioritizing. Obviously, one model reach to the other. So you have to design, and when you're talking of AI in large organization, you're trying to design is a product. It's a solution. It's a solution that you're going to sell, not a product. What companies sometimes make a mistake, or vendors who come and approach us make a mistake, is say, I have a good product. But are you trying to solve a business need for the organization? I don't know. Have they studied the organization enough before they come and sell it to us? Probably not. So that's what I would look, that people should focus on domains and also expand that horizon. That's what I would say.
Doctor, taking on to your topic. I understand that railways is a very complex organization, especially a public sector government entity. There is always a concern of the possible impact of employment, especially when it comes to RPA and AI kind of taking away jobs. What is your view and how are you kind of addressing that, Doctor?
First and foremost, I don't look at it at a very employment specific view, because we need to be the best in the competition as far as the quality of service is concerned, the value for money and the efficiency desired, because nobody is going to give credence to what otherwise you have. So the first and foremost focus has to be, are we able to bring in value out of what we deploy? It could be a driverless train for the future. But if that becomes the need of the hour, so that we are able to, if a train goes driverless, I don't need to worry about one resource being a constraint meeting demand.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things which are going to affect your market structure. We are not a monopolist. Like transportation has multiple modes of transport. We compete with trucking, we compete with airlines in the passenger segment. So we need to be agile. So I don't see that being a challenge or that being a constraint in adopting AI.
Excellent. I'm really glad, that's the mindset. Totally appreciate that. Manoj, back to you on the same topic. What is the best of breed or going with all-in-one kind of a solution?
Yeah, I think, I would like to bring a separate perspective over here. What I feel is that RPA caters to most of the things which is happening in organization, because that's where your work is repetitive or mundane. When we talk about AI, that brings in something related to intelligence, or maybe something we call it decision making. So where decision making is involved, you bring in the intelligence or an AI. Now, every organization may not need too much of AI, neither they would need too much of RPA. So the need right now comes up is that, okay, how do we make something which is suitable for most of the cases? That's why we, either we call it, technology chefs or whoever are there, they came up with a dish called intelligent RPA. Now that intelligent RPA is curated for all solutions. Now, what is intelligent RPA? When we talk about RPA takes care of all your structured data, all things which are predefined. If there are SOPs, RPA can handle things out very well. But if there are any deviations, and if there has to be some decisions which needs to be added, if else or if, so in these cases, what does it do? So it needs some sort of a helping hand. For example, you need to work on OCR, or you need to work on PDFs, or you need to work on unstructured data where you need to first structure it in order to feed it. So in these cases, you got to be bringing in the some sort of intelligence, or rather I would call not intelligence, but then decision making system. Now that decision making system may not be hi-fi like Karthik said, that you don't need Google or you don't need Bing to create an high level AI and all. You can still deal with the intelligent RPA, or infuse things out with the RPA. However, the solution should be in such a way that it caters most of your needs. Now, to do that, you can either create one solution which has everything, or rather create small solutions. For example, keep RPA separate, keep your AI platform separate, and keep your OCR wherever you want to utilize your capabilities of converting your images to text. Keep that platform separate. Now, what you do is based on your need. Maybe your 50 to 60% need is supplied by RPA itself. You don't need intelligence because most of the things can be handled by RPA. But wherever you have a need, integrate that solution along with it. It's all like you prepare something as your requirement. For example, when you go to China, the noodles which you get are different. While you have those same noodles in India, though that dish is called the Chinese dish, but then we have that Indian touch, Indian flavor. We like it that way. If we go to China and eat, we may not like it. So it's basically a need, or you curate your solution based on your need, and that's where I usually say that if we keep RPA separate, and if we keep AI separate, and try to bring in the integration solutions in between, it would help everyone out, so that you create a system which has best of everything. Your RPA is best of RPA, your AI is best of AI, and your integrated solution is best of in between. So my thought, or my conclusive comment on it is that, yeah, having integrated solution will allow us to have an option to pick or choose, as well as create solution as and when any organization would need, because every organization's need is different, and they would require solutions based on their requirement or based on their needs.
Excellent. Thanks, Manoj. I think that's a different perspective. So you're saying that we need to have, I mean, it's good if it is there in the platform, but it should also have a flexibility for you to bring in whatever you want later or whenever you need. That's a very good perspective. Thanks, Gokul. Your alley. A lot of people in this panel talking about document processing or intelligent OCR and stuff like that. So what's your view on this topic?
Thanks, boss. So I couldn't agree more with what Manoj just said. It's bang on. I mean, RPA and having an RPA platform and AI platform separately. As an AI first automation company at Botminds, we do a strong perspectives around this. Maybe let me take a step back. I'll come from a different angle, because even Dr. Sanjeev mentioned about open source and research happening, and Balaji talked about many use cases here to attack through a horizontal platform. So we are in exciting times, right? A lot of AI breakthroughs happening in the last 1 or 2 years. It's the breakthroughs like just 2 years back we are talking about, oh wow, this is something then suddenly we got another model, it beats all the state of the art results. Something like every month we are getting kind of path breaking new innovation. So that it's actually that translates as a pivotal moment for enterprises. It's in their automation journey. So now it's an opportunity to relook. I mean, the automation you're done, the processes you have. It's something like you have to think about process re-engineering also. So, for example, your process where you have a person doing a data entry, copy paste. Maybe why the data entry is existing. I mean, maybe you can think about bringing in a component that can read and understand documents. So that's the perspective, or that's the approach I'll always take to my customers. So it's time to even relook at the process, and the legacy processes, or the processes that got bloated because of the limitations of the technology we had just 1 year, 2 years back. So that's an important point. And then when we are talking about AI capability of RPA, right? So the RPA as a whole, so far, I mean, others also covered that point. I mean, it's always about structured data, or always RPA talked about. I mean, tried to automate the well standardized process. And now with the advancements things happened in the AI, how to bring those tasks. So far you left it to the human intelligence, and so far you automated only all other things. The other activities, intelligent activities, are actually left to the humans. How we can bring those intelligence also to the AI models, I mean the bots. So that's critical. And with that sense, I mean, I think it's more important to have an RPA platform that can easily connect to the AI model you develop inside your organization. And also it's important to use platforms which can help you to create AI models, of what your custom AI models you need, or custom AI solutions you need. So you need an AI platform that can help. I mean, that can help you to create the AI solutions in days or weeks. And then you need an RPA solution. I mean, you have to think about RPA solution that marries the best of both worlds.
Thanks, Gokul, for your view. Again, since intelligent automation is a combination of both RPA and AI, this requires a lot of multiple data sets. You need to bring in a lot of data from different silos, and it has to be trained, and that gets better over a period of time. And with this limitation and pressure on from the business to deliver and show the success very quickly, where do you think is this intelligent automation as a whole is heading towards, and what is the time taken to justify the ROI on this investment? What is your view? Probably we'll start with Karthik on this question.
Yeah, I think great question. I mean, much sought after question for every other one on the ROIs. In reality, most of the times you're right. But we need to go back to our organizations, and especially we are talking about AI and ML. When we talk about it, it's all about data. How much of those organizations are investing on their data lakes today? I doubt that many of the organizations do not invest on their data lakes. And that's the reason why you tend to get a fractured data output, which leads to a partial ML or a partial AI kind of a solution that we end up looking into. Now, there are other touch points, which we need to look at, especially in looking at getting the ROI part of it. How much of the source automation can you go ahead and transform? So if you automate or if you transform the source of the data, then the rest of the process based automation or the non process based automation, which could even be like some of the decisions, some of the marketing, sales, whichever which we are looking into, that by default leads to the kind of the quicker ROI as what I see. For example, many a times we do talk about surface automation. How many organizations have leveraged their APIs, which leads to much more faster automation than a traditional surface automation that we need to look at. Um, in fact, I can tell you that out of our own experience, a traditional automation which used to take like 4 to 6 weeks now takes 10 days for us because we are leveraging extensive APIs, as much as possible to ensure that we automate. So that means that we just call the APIs and only the logics needs to be written in the respective, automation tools. And many a times you don't even require a VM or any of those. So you bring down your costs of infrastructure to make it scalable. And speed is a new scale today. Everyone talks about scale, right? So we talk about scale. Speed is a new scale that we need to leverage upon, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're bang on. Balaji, I guess there's a lot of pressure from the banking perspective because the operations is so massive, especially with reducing interest rate and stuff like that. Money is always spent wisely in banks because you are the custodian of the money. So what is your view on ROI?
Yeah, so the cost of operations is extremely important for any organization to cut down. If you look at the pressure on any industry for that matter, the cost of operations, infrastructure cost. So making a contactless customer journey is another important thing which has become very mandate in the current era. So you need to understand the evolving system processes, engineering, it respects to the applications which have evolved over a period of time. Identifying the right use cases, making sure that you do a re-engineering of your process, understanding the customer journey, promoting state two process. Customer raise a request. How can it be a state two process? How can I eliminate a back office operation? Availability of APIs, giving a unified platform for a customer or a bank user is very important. Many organizations have, if I need to complete a transaction, I need to log into multiple applications. I need to log into multiple menus, dual data entry. So it's all about process re-engineering rather than connecting dots. Your automation journey should be a clear focus of a cross-functional team, which is from business, operations, and technology. Understand the customer journey, prepare a swim lane diagram, understand the process, how many hoppings are happening from one system to another system, and then take a solution. A forced solution, just giving in one path, may not give you the results. So you have a solution which is going to be a unified platform for the long run, so that my RPA is not required. Managing my legacy, you need an RPA. UI automation is going to help you, including external systems like connecting to external customer sites. All these things are possible with RPA. You can leverage that between balancing a long-term solution and the current legacy issues.
Right. Thanks, Balaji. Dr. Sanjeev, your thoughts on this? Going through the same. So what's your view on the ROI for your AI and RPA, especially intelligent automation perspective? How do you recover that?
So that's a nice question again, Subhash. So ROI, I would try to look at it from how this particular whatever solutions that we build with respect to RPA and AI. So especially when we are automating the entire process end to end in terms of generating intelligence and then using that to bring two things together, right? One is the customer experience, and second thing is the profitability for the company. And certainly during the course of discussion, I also there was an appropriate point that was made that 70% of the use cases are research oriented. When we're talking about AI ML, it is very, very important that what are the projects which we are able to do research on, they should also get converted to practical use cases that are consumed by industry. So that's why those only 30% get into production, and then those use cases are then used. Right? So from the ROI perspective, again, this is very important that when we start building use cases, they have to be very, very specific, and they should scale up to the requirement, especially when I look at telecom or from the FMCG or CPG perspective. I think the major challenge that we have is the speed with which the data is coming in. Right? The second thing is storage of the data and computation of that data. Now, if we are using open source tools and techniques, the open source tools and techniques are very, very, so if I'm talking about Hadoop or things like that, the performance is very low. Now, and the ROI is connected to the entire journey, isn't it? The ROI is connected to the entire journey, storing of the data, computation, and then running some kind of AI ML models on top of it. This entire process, I think, from the ROI perspective, the speed, scale, and the value that we will be able to generate from for any particular use case is something that I would prefer that particular approach as a solution. So from ROI perspective, my take would be totally use the use cases that are customer centric and revenue generating. That's how I approach it.
Thanks, Dr. Manoj. I know personally work with you all. So there is some extraordinary work being done by you guys in India, and it's been an example to some of your colleagues globally, especially when it comes to intelligent automation, right? So how do you guys manage, and what is the ROI you justified, and how did you get to that?
See, what we look into is we don't only look into ROI from cost perspective. Okay, so cost saving is, yes, it's one of the perspective which everybody looks into, and at the end of the day, you want to really relate to it. But for us, we always look into many other intangible ROIs. For example, you have better efficiency, you have effort saving, you have better quality in terms of outputs, you are well compliant, you have most of the things which are compliant from when you have to submit versus when you were earlier doing it. You have more options of scaling them. I mean, add more bots, more scripts, more processes, up to you. Your organization standardization also happens, because most of the processes will then get standardized because they are now either handled by bots or by the AI scripts. You, with the standardization, with a lot of documentations and SOPs, you would create a data lake or data ocean, which will give you more insights so that you can plan your future as well. That, okay, now since I have done 10 automations, with that I get these insights, now I can plan further. So your future vision, or rather I would say the design thinking, would then start how you would enhance it further. On top of it, you would focus on working something more value added. So now what we would see, that I have transformed these many processes into automation. Now what I do is I now look into value add, and how do I bring value add? By scaling my own resources up. For that, what you do is internally you set up we call it like the automation university. You set up an automation university within, skill people up so that people are skilled with whatever work they are going to be doing in future. And skilling, reskilling, de-skilling usually helps in terms of making your employees motivated. Along with that, you should have the concept of COE. So if you don't have COE, you do not have the future vision that what you want to achieve through automation. And the most important thing is that mindset change. A lot of places, or a lot of our organizations, do feel that AI or robotics might bring some cost cutting or headcount cutting, but then mindset has to change, that it is only for improvement. With all these, you actually then get transformed into a digital organization. That's what is the word in the market, right? Do you call it digital transformation, or you're doing digital transformation in your organization? That's where it starts. You start with the step of actually automating, digitizing, creating your own data source, which you might have overlooked. and then come up with the output. So that way you actually approach things overall, not only from the dollar value, that okay, this much dollar or this much yen I have saved, but what you look at is that what else have I got it? What are those intangible values which I have earned with this, and how does it impact me future? It may not be now, but how does it impact me in future when I actually look into future state of my organization?
Excellent. That's a very good perspective, Manoj. Gokul, I guess your view on this would definitely be very different compared to the actual users of the product than you can develop the product. So what's your perspective from the creator of a product?
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is kind of important, critical question. I get to see frequently when I'm talking to customers, right? I mean, hey, how much time it took, how much time it will take for me to see ROI, what kind of effort or skills I need to see ROI, right? It's in addition to the standard answers like quality or the scale or compliance. No, I like. I mean, I like to add two additional dimensions, like you have to pick right use cases so that you can get the results immediately, the impact immediately. So the use cases, as I already talked about, the scenarios where you clearly see, it is, bloated, the processes are, not so efficiently designed. So you need some kind of, uh, consulting approach. I mean, we go as a consultant, we analyze the process, say these are the processes where we can make a difference, and we help customers to pick the use cases. So picking the right use case is a first important thing to see the ROI, quickly, and the bigger ROI, because the kind of efficiency AI can bring in. And more importantly, when you pick the use cases, you have to move away from the, I mean, as an AI company, most of the time people are talking about accuracies. Okay, you are an AI company, you're developing AI model. Hey, what is the accuracy? No, it's, you have to, move away from the accuracy discussion to the efficiency. So if you re-engineer the process, if you, let's say, you automate an email classification, I think Balaji also mentioned. So automate an email classification. Basically, it's a time to 30 minutes to seconds, maybe. A process that takes 8 hours. Now we are, talking about, minutes or, 1 hour. So we have to think about efficiency by complete re-engineering. So that's one important point to see ROI quickly. Pick the right use cases. So that's one dimension. Another dimension is, again, I think we've already talked about it. Yeah, horizontal nature, right? I mean, you need a, your one-time investment. For example, you are investing a one time to train your people, or to set the standard or process. Then that should get leveraged again and again. I mean, other process, to automate other process. You don't have to invest again for that particular point solution. So the need of horizontal platform, or the benefit of horizontal platform, is once that investment done, or once the training done to the people, you can leverage that again and again. You can create the the necessary point solutions quickly. That's possible because of the platforms like Botminds, right, where we're armed with massive pre-trained models. So you can use those pre-trained models, or training sets to develop these point solutions quickly. So that's important. Otherwise, it will be like, okay, you cannot justify very well. I'm using this AI platform or AI model, but I'm going to get benefit only in this use case. For another use case, again, I have to go through entire project life cycle. No, that won't work. So yeah, horizontal platform armed with pre-trained model that can help you in many use cases can justify the ROI also. So that's 2 points I want to add in addition to the other points mentioned by the panelists.
Excellent. Ravi, over to you. Your view on the ROI, for especially when it comes to these two technologies together, deriving value.
ROI and scale are quite interrelated, right? I mean, the bigger the scale, the better the ROI. So I was talking just, about an hour back on how do you make the intelligent automation program scalable. And I think one of the critical areas is organizations need to take scalability more strategically. I don't think organizations take or address scalability with now infusion of technology more than ever, and I think that trend is going to continue. They need to take scalability a little more strategically, right? I mean, it cannot be just, okay, fine, odd sort of a solution is scalable, while others may not be. Yeah. So one is that, and second, when you're talking about scalable, there has to be a business strategy, especially from an AI. I think everybody's on a different sort of a maturity curve when it comes to AI. So having a strategy of sorts where what are the themes which are really impacting us as a business, and then addressing those themes. And I think ROI is only an output of that strategy, right? Because what happens is if you're trying to address something at scale, ROI invariably gets addressed. Yeah. And I think I agree with a few of the panelists here, because if you don't have the infrastructure before you actually start to put AI, NLP models on it, ML models on it, I mean, say for instance, a big data lake, right? I mean, so if you don't have a big data platform and you know that data is bad, there is no point in putting an AI strategy on it because you need to fix your data first, right? So I think that is one. And two more pieces. One is it has to be a POC driven approach. I mean, I've seen many a times across organizations, it is such a heavy investment sort of an area that if you do not take a POC approach, you're bound to, fail. And then you've already invested, so you're trying to make it work with patchy solutions and all that stuff, right? So I think a POC approach with a very, very pointed view in terms of what you want to achieve at the back of that POC. And I think I talked about that previously as well, that having some sense of framework or reusability is going to go a long way to make sure that the ROI is good. And then the last point is be ready for a multi-year payback period. If the investments are big, because otherwise you're in for a heartache. Yeah. I mean, if you plan yourself to be ready for a multi-year, I mean, that, the cost, what you're doing is very strategic and not tactical. And therefore, what results you are expecting are strategic and not tactical. And I think that's where the differentiation between a very bespoke, quick RPA solution is versus a more permanent, intelligent, cognitive AI solution. Yeah. So that's what my 2 cents are.
Amazing thought point. Any other thoughts to the panelists? I know we are, in the interest of time, we were scheduled it for 1 to 2. We are running out of it. But are you okay to take one more question, or should we take the questions from the audience?
I'm good, Subhash.
Okay. Ajit, can we take the questions from the audience?
Yes, definitely, sir. Thank you very much. So now it is open for Q&A. Any participant, if you have any question, you can simply unmute yourself and ask the question directly. Or even you can post the same in chat box and we will take this forward.
I can see a couple of questions in the chat. Yeah. When we started this session.
Hi, good afternoon, panel. This is Abhishek Joshi. First of all, thank you for your lovely insights, and thank you for sharing your journeys and your experiences across the board. There's just a quick question, probably to the panel and specifically to Manoj, and some very interesting points, Manoj, that you had pointed out in terms of the benefits and intangibles of the things. I just wanted to understand that as an organization, we are also undergoing the journey, and how have you looked at your business stakeholders, right, in terms of convincing them from an automation perspective around understanding and allaying their fears. I already see smile on Manoj's faces. So in terms of controls and regulations, because despite of that, there's one particular point on mindset which you talked about as an organization that you should have and drive it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not a terminator sitting across the computer trying to wreak havoc across your board. It's a piece of software code, irrespective of the level of intelligence that it has. So how have you gone that particular change? Because I think we strongly believe technical issues are very easy to solve. It's these particular ones that generally tend to take more time and focus away.
Well, that's a beautiful question, and there's no set answer for this. To be honest, it's again like they say, it's not the goal, it's the journey. So it starts with first doing your changes, which means that okay, you are bringing the change internally, and you first bring it on your side where you don't have to talk to business that you are bringing change. For example, what we started with an IT systems itself, because automating things within IT would not require business to come in between or have some say from the business. Once we were able to automate, we were able to showcase it to the business, and we made sure that it is not taken in the headcount reduction, or from the point of view that they will have fears of automation. What we looked into is that we tried to showcase anything other than the headcount reduction, which means, like I was talking about, the efficiency, right? So if I reach out to the finance and say that, what, I'm going to be doing some automation, finance might feel that, my processes are mostly mundane or repetitive. There might be some decision making or approvals which can still be automated. So why would I give it? At the end of the day, I might lose a job here. But then we can bring in value by providing them the solution which would not replace them, instead that will enable them. So our thought process, and then like I in any conference where I go, this is one of the common questions which I get, and I always say that I do not have a set answer, but what I have is a type of process which can take you to the answer that might be suitable for your organization, or that might be suitable for your own purpose which you are actually dealing with. So the process can be that you first try to show it within you. When you made changes, when you did the changes within your process or your project, what was the outcome, and then try to do a POC, or try to go slow with them, saying that okay, this is what I'm trying to give it to you. This may or may not give you the ROI from the dollars perspective, but then it will surely give you efficiency. Now look from the efficiency perspective as well as from the quality and compliance perspective, how you are actually bringing that change. Slowly that change will bring things out. Like I said, it all depends on the mindset change, and mindset change can happen by following certain procedures. One is that publishing whatever you are going to be doing within your project. You might have done some automation, try to publish it with multiple stakeholders, just a normal knowledge sharing session, or try to set up some sort of a vision document, or we call it the design thinking workshops with the businesses, to understand what their vision is, how do they see in future, and what they are actually looking into, and try to bring other aspects of automation which can actually give them more benefit at the end of the day. I'm not sure whether the answer which you are seeking is there, but the process which I followed, or which we usually see organizations start to follow, is by showing what changes they are bringing in themselves, and then trying to go slow with the businesses as well.
Great. Thanks, Manoj.
Does it
Yeah,
satisfy?
yeah. At least
Yeah.
I understand the journey part of it, and yeah, we are halfway there. So appreciate the feedback, and it gives us a little more confidence that yeah, it's gonna happen. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Akshay. Thanks a lot for asking, and very interesting question and cornering Manoja. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, any other question? We can take one last. There is one question in the chat. How important is to choose a suitable SI for proper implementation of RPA AI tools?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Anyone in the panel wants to take this question?
Yeah, Balaji here. So I would say, like, start with the small scale, get the experience. RPA is not a technology project. It's heavily on the back office operations part, and hence the involvement of operations team and the respective business team is extremely important. So start with the low scale and get the comfort. Don't ask a partner on what process to be automated. I think any organization should look at considering the ecosystems of the organization. What is the process followed in the respective organization? The respective organization should identify the bottleneck and use a implementation partner on the technology front. This is very important, because moment you start involving a partner to say identify the problem, it will never happen. So identify a small partner, start with few use cases, get the experience, enable the team, like for example, business and operations. with growing volume, growing numbers, every organization is forced to give the instant customer service. So I don't think there's a problem in convincing business or operations for automation. Those are old days. It's a demand, it's a survival which is helping you for making people to collaborate and join for this journey. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Balaji. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank the panelists here. It's been a honor. It's great knowing you all, of course. I know most of you all, so it's really an honor to host you all. And thanks a lot for your valuable insights. Look forward to connect with you all soon. And I would like to thank UBS Forums also for giving us this opportunity and giving me this opportunity to host you all. Thanks a lot again, and look forward to be in touch with you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Special thanks to all the speakers and panel speakers for being here, and Subhash sir for moderating it very well. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a successful event just because of you. Still, if you have any queries, questions, you can write back to UBS Forums team and we can forward this to the concerned speakers and partners. With that note, thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a great day. Thank you.